Hello, happy whatever day it is that you are practicing with me. We will need 2 blocks and a blanket for this practice, and those are optional. So we will begin in child's pose. So if you like a blanket under your knees or between, like in your knee pits or under your face, however you want to start in child's pose, whatever you want to do with your arms, all good. So make your way there, however you want to manage that. And even whether or not you want a wide-kneed posture, wide knees, you might be able to sink your belly down in between thighs and knees together. You might get a little bit more flexion, a little bit more space in your spine. However you want to do that. And make yourself comfortable. Start to not only notice your breath, but to cultivate this equal, even breath that we talk about all the time. Samavriti, same fluctuation is what that means in Sanskrit. And all that means is that the inhale and the exhale are of equal length and quality. So if your inhale is nice and smooth and even, then your exhale will be too. And they're about the same length. If you like to add a count to your breath, absolutely do that. If you'd rather go by feel, do that instead. But for these next, say, 5 breaths, really come into this evenness. And when you're finished with that 5th exhale, bring your arms down by your sides if they're not already, and turn your head to rest your left cheek on the mat. And if that is just wildly uncomfortable, see if laying out completely flat on your belly and turning your face to the side feels any better. But again, finding this equal, even breath. And really letting your neck relax as much as possible. You may find that you're resisting, or that it doesn't feel good. And if it doesn't, find a way, a blanket, a block, a different posture in your body to allow this twist in your cervical spine. So we always talk about balance and evenness and equanimity in this practice. And our breath is a way to signal to our bodies and our minds that everything is on balance. If your breath is ragged and uneven, then the nervous system will reflect that. They kind of mirror one another. If the nervous system's all whacked out, then the breath is whacked out. If the breath is easy and cool and relaxed, then the nervous system can reflect that too. Take one more breath with your head turned this way. And then it might be easier to bring your hands up, actually push yourself up, lift your head, turn to the other side, and then replace your arms down by your sides. And this side, it depends on what, I don't know which hand you are dominant in. It depends on a lot of things. But your head may not turn this way as easily as it did the other way. Or that may be completely backwards and the other way was super difficult and this feels a little easier. But there's usually one way that really doesn't like it. So finding comfort any way that you can, lifting yourself up, finding a different posture in your body. Well, once you've gotten to a sustainable place, moving to that sama vritti, equal, even breath. And take one more breath here. And slowly, slowly, slowly push yourself up and bring your head into neutral. Maybe give it a little shake, no, back and forth a couple times just to get it out of being one way or the other. Just kind of shaking it off. And since we have been in child's pose for a good long time now, come all the way out flat on your belly. Unless you already did that earlier in your head turning. So come into Makrasana, crocodile, with arms up, one hand on top of the other, and forehead resting on the back of the hand. And see if it's a lot easier to breathe with this long body and your head in neutral. Just taking away all these obstacles that we had to the breath. And pulling it in deeply and wide. And we'll maintain this equal, even breath as we come up into tabletop. And here's the option for blocks for tabletop here. So hands on the blocks, fingers wrapped around the front or not. Totally up to you. But we'll start like a cat-cow situation, only we'll really break it down into that space where we start with the tailbone and kind of articulate each little vertebra all the way up to the very end. And see if, once you start that tip of the tail, if you can find an exhale to match the length of that movement. So we'll start with a cat. So the tail comes down and then each little bone moves up on its own as you exhale, finish the exhale by dropping the chin toward the chest. And then the inhale begins when the tail lifts. And then each little bone comes down on its own. The chin is the last to lift. And it doesn't have to be that slow, but see if you can match the wave of the breath with the wave of the spine when you move this. I'll leave you alone to do that at your own pace. But let's say 3 times, 3 full inhales and exhales. Starting with the exhale, tail comes down. Rounding slowly. And of course, they're not actually going to move one at a time. They're all connected with each other. But bringing your attention to each one as if it were possible that they could move independently of one another. And you may find the cat or the cow a little more difficult. Just see how you go. Starting that wave with the tail. And then with the tail again. And take a moment in a neutral spine here just to see if focusing on the breath and slowing both the movement and the breath down together makes you feel any different. And we'll come to seated. First, just pop your legs out in front of you into Paschimottanasana. So feet out, legs out long, feet out straight and toes up. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, find your fold. And here too, that equal breath. So you might, if you get real quiet here, you might notice that there is actually a difference from side to side. Even though, all body parts are mirroring one another, everything you have a pair of is doing the same thing. But they might not be saying the same things. Upon first glance, it might be like, oh, the backs of my legs. But it could be like, well, it's kind of the back of my right leg and a little bit of my left hip and kind of up the spine on one side. But we can only hear that when we get quiet and start to hold that space for our bodies to tell us what's going on. Maybe lowering your chin down toward your chest. See if that is interesting to you. One more breath. And then slowly, slowly coming back up. And then we'll come into Sukhasana. And if you want to sit on a blanket, that might be nice because we will be seated for a second. So from that tabletop, you might have some wrist stuff going on. So bring the insides of your wrists together. We may or may not have done this in a joint freeing exercise, but I think it's really interesting. So what the goal is here is to keep the wrists touching at all times. I guess goal is a kind of a big word for that. But kind of the idea is to keep wrists touching. So as you roll your pinkies toward one another, wrists are still touching. And as you start to bring the backs of your hands toward one another, wrists are still touching. That may be way easier said than done. Continue on that circle as thumbs start to come toward one another. And then wrists stay together as they come back into this little Padmasana, this Padma Mudra. It's not Padmasana, Padma Mudra. So do that 2 more times with the pinkies being the starting point, or the outer edge of the hand being the starting point, with the idea of keeping the wrists as close to one another as is possible today. And you can straighten arms, you can bend arms, you can do whatever you want to keep those together, winding back up in that lotus. And then one more time, wrapping those around one another. And then we'll do the same the other way. So thumbs are kind of the leaders. Pinkies come away from each other. Thumbs kind of push through the middle there. And then backs of hands come together. Then pinkies and the middle of the wrist. So 2 times that way too. And there may be a preference in direction for this too. I find both directions to be pretty challenging, but I think this direction might actually be a little more difficult for me. And then when you're finished with the 3, just let your arms hang down. Maybe give them a little shake. And bring your chin down to your chest. And moving back into that Samavriti, even breath. Slowly start to shake your head no, moving chin from collarbone to collarbone. And then when your chin is back into the center, lift your chin all the way up. Close your teeth together. And maybe even slide your bottom jaw up toward the ceiling a couple times. Opening and closing your teeth together. And bringing your chin back to level. So send your arms out to the sides and wrap left arm under right, coming into eagle arms. And if eagle arms is not an option for you today, Give yourself a hug, left arm underneath. So whichever way you slice it, we have that space coming between the shoulder blades. Send your hands, if you're giving yourself a hug, leave your hands where they are. But if you have your arms in eagle arms, send your hands away from you and drop your chin. Let your forearms be heavy. And do that little shake of the head no again. See if that's any different. And you can let your head be really heavy here. And bring your chin back up. Float your elbows up to even with your shoulders. So even if hands are on your shoulders, elbows come up. Let your hands, if your arms are in eagle, fall over to the left, and your head falls over to the right. And you find a little shake of the head no here too. Leave the hands where they are, bring the head back up, and then head falls to the left. So the same direction the hands are falling, the head falls, and the head shakes no. Bring everything back to neutral. Hands fall to the right, head falls to the left. Find a no. I guess we're normally wanting to find a yes in yoga right this second. Shaking from right to left. And then head falls to the right. And a no. Then back to neutral. Unwind the arms and let them just hang next to you. That's a lot. And we'll send the left ear to the left shoulder, this time letting the left fingertips kind of rest on the right side of the head. And the right fingertips can do one of a couple different things. They can just hang. They can walk way out to the right, or can tuck behind you. I kind of like the tuck behind. And then it's just light pressure with these left fingertips, but send the chin down to your armpit. And release your right arm wherever it is and your left, and come back up into center. And just give your head a little test drive here. See what feels different. And then let your right ear fall to your right shoulder. Right fingertips to the outside, the left side of the head. Let your arm hang, which does feel nice too. Or walk out to the side. Or tuck behind. And I would say do the same thing that you did on the first side, but maybe that's not what this side needs. So listening here too. Dial your chin down toward your right armpit. And unwind your left arm, your right hand. And then again, a little test drive. So we'll start with neck circles. Really not neck circles, I guess they're head circles, but drop your chin. And the same kind of that we did with the wrists, try to keep the chin down as close to the body as you can until you just can't anymore. Kind of pulling the chin over to the left And then dialing the base of the skull down toward the middle, over to the right till the right ear is the closest to the shoulder. And then the chin picks up where the ear leaves off and back. So this doesn't have to be a giant circle, but just kind of letting the head be heavy. But if there's any weirdness at all, if it just doesn't seem okay, don't do it. Make the circles small. So 3 more going the same direction, starting with the left. Or heading to the left, I guess. And then when you're finished with those, chin comes down first, come to the right first, back and around with 4 circles here. It's funny how you can lose count when you're only counting to 4. Guess that says something about how present I am being at this moment, I guess. Come back into center. And then again, just give it a little swirl and see if anything got looser in there, or if you just found resistance, because that can happen sometimes too. Okay, and then if you're on a blanket, move out of the way, move the blanket out of the way, come to your back, do whatever you want to with your legs, and cross your arms. We never changed the eagle arms there. Let's make the right arm underneath here. It's not gonna make it totally even. And that's kind of the whole point of this practice, but we're gonna let that slide because we also have to come to acceptance, right? So tuck your fingertips as far under you as they will go. So maybe you kind of get a little grip on the insides of your scapula, maybe not. But a big hug. And at first, just kind of feel those muscles in between your shoulder blades. And breathe into them. Maybe you can feel a little bit of extra pressure on the inhale or the bottom of the exhale. And then send your arms straight up to the ceiling. Switch your hug. So left arm is underneath now. And then same thing, just allowing some space and some breath to come into those muscles between your shoulder blades. Maybe you can start to feel a little bit of length or space coming between the thoracic spine, the vertebrae there. And unwind your arms, let them come right down by your sides. Pick up your head, turn your head to face the left, and then put your head back down. And if it's interesting to you, and if it feels okay to you, let your knees fall to the right. If you did let your knees fall to the right, bring those to the center first. Pick up your head, bring it to center first. Pick it up again, turn your head to the right. And if you did on the other side and it seems like a good idea, let your knees fall to the left. Knees come to center. Head comes to center. And then just moving, shaking the head, no, from ear to ear. Kind of a little massage for the back of the skull. And a little loosening of those muscles that were maybe not thrilled with what we were just doing. Since they don't get a lot of attention, these muscles in the neck and the top of the shoulders, sometimes they cramp. Sometimes they're like, what even are you doing? So this can kind of give them a little reassurance. And then back into center. Let your legs come out long. Let your eyes close if they're not already. And for these first 5 breaths, that equal, even breath. Where we find that equanimity, that calm in the storm. Where it doesn't matter what's happening around us, we can find ourselves grounded and even and calm, regardless of the external stimuli. Which isn't to say we don't notice it or that we are ignoring it or we're denying it. It's that we can find regulation in our nervous systems despite what is happening around us. Instead of getting chaotic and mixed up in it, we are able to find some clarity because we're not also engaging in all the craziness. Then let go of that Samavriti breath if you haven't already, or just return to your natural breath. And when it is time to come out of Shavasana, I will guide you. Humans need to practice equanimity and joy because we see things backward. If others are successful, we feel like it's somehow bad for us. Maybe there's only a finite amount of success, and if someone else succeeds, there is nothing left for me. Because of our conditioning, the path forward seems to go back, and the path into the light seems dark. We must learn to endure our fear with equanimity, to be able to practice compassion, loving kindness, and joy. Each time we have a genuine opportunity to give voice to the wisdom and compassion in our heart, a backward part of us feels afraid. These are the moments when our practice can change the course of our lives. Being right there, we can know our fear for what it is and choose to express our core values and beliefs instead. Rather than bringing a little more fear into the world, we can bring a little more love. Find another full, deep breath. And when you're ready, make your way to seated. Send your arms out and up and inhale. And pull hands into heart center. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Have a good day.